I'm rhyming, and I'm a rapper. Actually, in Japan, that's how they call rappers. Rappers. I'm like, no, rappers are yo yo yo, but they're all like. So yeah, I lived in Japan for years, and it made me an animal. I wanted to write me a book, but Loco made me a manual, a step-by-step. Now let me stop. Alright, so what up? It's rhyming. If you haven't seen me before, where the hell have you been? And if you have seen me, then let's continue. I live in Japan. I've been here for 6 years. I make videos about teaching English and life in Japan and rapping and what have you. And since I'm black, a lot of people, a lot of questions and comments I get are, what's it like to be black in Japan? What's it like? Is it? And all these questions. And for the most part, I answer. I'm like, it's like this, it's like that. And then other things, I'm like, you just got to experience yourself, yada, yada, yada. I wanted to write a book, just kind of detailing this because, I read a lot of books. And there's not many books written about being black in Japan, being Spanish in Japan, being Italian in Japan. There's usually just being and it does change for each race, each culture, each country, because Japan has their own ideas about each country, and people do get different things. Anyway, so I want to write my take on it, the rhyming experience. Actually, I like that. That's going to be the title of my book, the rhyming experience. But I was really excited when Loco was like, "Hey, I'm writing a book." I'm like, "Yeah," because everybody says they're going to write a book. He's like, "Nah, it's finished." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And the next day, he sent me a little PDF file, and I read. Hi, my name is Loco, and I'm a racist. So I'm trying to see if it's spelled wrong or in the wrong place. Like, hey, there's a racist, and oh, hi, I'm Loco. But that's how it's written right there. Hi, I'm a racist. So I'm like, okay. Let me see what we got here. So I'm flipping through in the PDF, and I was going to go visit my girlfriend's house in Shizuoka. So I have a long trip ahead of me. So I'm like, this is a good time to read it. So I'm on there just reading, flipping through. He talks about caterpillars, and I'm like, caterpillars, man, I don't know what I'm getting into. So I'm reading it, and slowly. So at first I'm kind of like this, but then I'm all like, da da da, and I'm all like into it, because literally, man, I haven't met him before. I mean, I talked to him on the phone, we email each other. He actually lives like 2 blocks up the street, but we haven't really met. That's Japan for you, So I'm reading it, and the more I read, the more I'm getting to know about him, his history, and because it starts off before he got to Japan, and he talks about hip hop and music and stuff. So I was very into it. I was drawn into it. So then by the time I get to Yokohama, which incidentally is where he lives, I had to switch trains, and I was just trying to. I was visiting my girl's house for the first time. So, I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about the story. So then I switch trains, and I leave my iPad on the train by the ticket thing, right? So I go through there. I get on the bus or the next train, and I'm going there. It's like another hour trip to my girlfriend's parents' house. And I'm like, oh, where's my iPad? And it was gone. Now, this is Japan. So you're like, oh, you lost your iPad? Nah, it's Japan. So I made a phone call to my girl. I said, hey, I think I left my iPad at the station. Can you call to see if it's there? She calls, and then they're like, yeah, it's right here. We'll save it until he comes back. She calls me back like it's there. I'm like, okay, cool. Now, what I was most upset about was now I got to read this book on a little small-ass iPhone screen, man. Before I had the iPad, I was like, oh, this is cool. I could read a book. But after the iPad, because the iPad's about this size, so I'm like, this is, so I'm now reading like this, but I'm still into it, man, and I'm reading, and then, I get to my girl's house, and we're talking, and every 3 seconds, I'm reading, it's like, is that interesting? Like, yes. And then it came to the one part where, a lot of people like, oh, I cried, and then a lot of other people like, psh, I'm a big man, I don't cry, I'm too cool, and all that shit. And the reason I cried, I don't know, it was the circumstances. So I'm in my girlfriend's house for the first time, and I'm sleeping under the covers. It was mad cold, man, and we couldn't sleep in the same bed in her parents' house. So I'm mad cold, huddled up under the sheets with the light from my iPod or iPhone and I'm reading it, and it gets to the part where, it literally is the same thing I'm going through right now, meeting her parents for the first time. And, they're just showing me all this love, and I met her dad, I met her sisters, her uncles, I met the family dog. So I feel like a part of the family, and then this part comes up, and I'm thinking, what if that was me? What if that was the situation I would be in? And it really touched me in a way that Loco can write his ass off. He's like I write rhymes. I'm a lyrical freestyling genius. He's a literal I can't say that, a literal I'm not gonna waste your time. He's a dude who could write very well. So he was able to take those emotions and put them into words and touch people. And reading other people's comments, they felt the same way. And whereas him and I'm a rapper, and he's from where I'm from. He's New York, I'm Pennsylvania, so we're like distant cousins. So he touched me, but he's also touching people who never listen to rap or not even black and da 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 da. So yeah, that's what this book is. As far as the content, it's his story. It's true. That's the best content there is. It's not what he thinks, it's what he felt. It's not what he believes, it's what he's seen. And if you're coming to Japan, or you just want to know how it is to be a black person in Japan, I really suggest you read this book.